For Sunday, July 15th, you've found the Georgia gang. Topping our agenda today, nastiness reigns in the runoff for governor. More crazy city spending in Atlanta. And we'll take a look at 2 congressional runoffs. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia gang starts now.
And we're glad you could be with us on this day of World Cup soccer finals and Atlanta United back on the field. But our business is not sports, it's politics and it's current events. And the governor's race, I was watching a lot of television this week, as we all do. And the race between Casey Cagle and Brian Kemp for the Republican nomination for governor has become almost the sense of competing mugshots. Which one is more criminal than the other? Which one's picture is grayed out on the screen to look like a villain? Phil, you would think that each of the 2 candidates and the candidates in the lieutenant governor's race are felons and incompetents.
Well, it certainly is the mean season, and we knew this was going to happen with the TV ad wars. And it's interesting to reflect that $33 million is going to be spent in this gubernatorial race, and that's going to break all records. In fact, I was just checking over in neighboring South Carolina, where Henry McMaster had won his runoff race, who's the governor of South Carolina, and the Columbia State newspaper was horrified that he spent over $3 million. So that shows the expense of the Atlanta TV market right there. But to your point, and I know we're going to discuss this, I was hoping that some news would be made from that GOP debate. And now there's going to be another one Sunday today, and we may hear some news. But you and I have been talking about this there, and let's hear more about some education reform. Let's hear more about transit and transportation. Hopefully we'll hear more on that.
Well, we're seeing words like criminal investigation, and Brian Kemp is saying that one thing Cagle did, if it didn't criminal, it should be.
Right.
And Kemp is being accused of accepting illegal campaign contributions. I suppose it's par for the course, but it does seem, you're right, Phil, to crowd out issues. Alexis?
Yeah, the press club debate was just ridiculous. And when the candidates questioned each other, it was all about their criminal activity, their mismanagement and misuse of funds, and all these things that didn't have anything to do with issues that people care about. And they were very, just boring. On top of that, they didn't show much personality because they were so dead set on, trying to attack each other.
Well, that's a point for you, Theron. Casey Cagle has introduced a new style of commercial. He's usually this very soft-spoken fellow and can be boring, that's right. And now he's got this campaign rally commercial where he shouts, almost like an old-time Southern politician or a preacher who's really wound up on Sunday.
Yeah, and
he does mention issues in that one.
Well, and I think that his campaign team is telling him, guys, we've got to get back on track. I agree with Phil and Alexis. I think that the lack of substance and, no leadership, really no plan to continue the legacy of Governor Deal. But quite frankly, the tone is just very harsh. And I warned us 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Phil, sort of said that we saw a little bit of that on the runoff between Kathy Cox and Mark Taylor. But I just think that at this particular time, the governor really has got to be looking at this very closely. And what do I mean by that? Say what you want to say about Governor Deal. I think many of us on the Democratic side definitely think that he's been an outstanding governor. I mean, we look at issues around criminal justice reform, transit, trying to do something about Medicaid expansion. I just don't think he can sit on the sideline and continue to let these 2 individuals create this dissension in his party. I think him or Senator Perdue and other Republicans in the state are going to have to step in this runoff and try to consolidate behind one candidate.
Stacey Abrams and the Democrats are just sitting back taking notes.
Exactly.
And campaigning and raising money.
She's got a whole playbook that she can do.
Right.
I wonder if Deal will endorse. Do we think we might see an actual endorsement, a Republican primary from Governor Deal?
I don't know. I have not heard that. There's speculation that could occur.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of speculation, but I think Stacey Abrams is looking at this and saying, okay, these guys are giving me more and more to my research book.
That's right.
And so she's got to be ready whenever the Republican nominee emerges. She's got to be ready to get full gear to go and to get involved. But the other thing that really strikes me so interesting me is that Cagle did mention, hey, you know, all we're talking about is who's got the biggest gun, you know, and who's, you know, the toughest on illegal immigration. And so I do see a pivot from him, Dick, and you said this. He's sort of the moderate, more business-friendly candidate in this runoff. But unfortunately, Kemp has brought him kind of way more to the right, and having to get him to really focus on these strong Republican
So therefore,
issues.
in that Gainesville rally commercial, Casey Cagle is saying round up illegal aliens, doing all the other.
Yeah.
I think everybody's for rounding up illegal aliens, except a hardcore left.
Undocumented immigrants.
I will say that, no, they're the most documented people in the world, except it's all fake. But anyhow, I think there's a footnote to all of this, and that is the early voting that has been going on. And both candidates are out there trying to bank those early votes. And I would say, Theron, don't you think that by July 24th, half of the people at least will have already voted in this low turnout?
Yeah, it's going to be a low turnout.
Well, and we saw it in the primary, and Alexis reminded us of this week after week, that Abrams was going to prevail because she had spent the money to really bank the votes. I think that Cagle probably has a little bit of an edge because he had so much early money that I would hope that he has banked those votes. But don't underestimate Kemp, because Kemp is definitely surging, and I do sense a lot of momentum for his campaign across the state.
Yeah, but Cagle has outraised him 2 to 1. He's got 10 million to his 5 or 6.
Yeah, and he's got 2 TV commercials for every 1/3 commercial that Kemp has.
We haven't seen a major poll yet as we tape. I think there is some momentum for Kemp, and I think a lot of the negative ads that Cagle is doing that are good. They're good ads, but I don't see where they're chipping away that much.
And the other thing is, I'm sorry, I just want to put in that Cagle has said that in that tape where he was unknowingly recorded that they have to be more crazy, and that's what is sort of doing him in. I think he's trying to pivot from being crazy.
And he's on defense. He's on defense because of that tape that was done by the defeated rival Clay Tippins. I do think Tippins could still be a factor. I'm told that he still may release some more of that tape that could be, I don't know how damaging it could be to Cagle, but you don't want to be on defense at this point in the race.
Right.
He'll never work in this town again. Let me tell you that. Let's switch to the lieutenant governor's race briefly, because I'm troubled by it. It too has turned into a nasty race. And this Jeff Duncan, good-looking young guy, good business career, played baseball in the minor leagues, has turned loose a PAC, an outside money PAC, slamming David Schaefer, putting on the screen criminal investigation, sexual harassment, even has a headline in there that doesn't relate to David Schaefer at all, but to Clay Tippins. Remember, that is an ugly ad.
They're very ugly, some of the worst I've seen in recent years. Remember, a PAC is not supposed to coordinate with a campaign. And I don't know if that's happening or not. But if I was David Schaefer, the Republican lieutenant governor candidate, I would seriously consider filing a defamation suit. Because as you point out, some of this is just plain wrong. Some of it is plain lie. He's still accusing Schaefer of being an alleged sexual harasser when that was totally false, and he was exonerated by the Senate committee.
Charge, so that
there was a charge, but it's misleading. I mean, the charge is wrong.
But
now.
I think
this spent $600,000 to buy airtime for Jeff Duncan.
That is real money. I mean, let me tell you, $600,000 went into your point about
TV.
early voting. But I think that also, listen, this started at the top. We have a president who was elected by using some of these tactics, guys. I mean, I'm just telling you, you hate when I go
Here we
there.
go. Here
but
we
no,
go
but
again.
and I'm actually, I'm saying
definitely a trend.
it's the Trumpian trend that we're seeing all across the country. And so I think that while these candidates, I truly believe, are trying to focus on the issues, when they're at these rallies, when they're at these meet and greets, these Republican voters want to hear some of these very wedge issues that they're forced to talk about.
You know, I remember when George Bush was president, the left was calling him Hitler and all sorts of vicious and mean
I
things.
don't recall that.
And so, yeah, you ought to go back and look at
for his
that.
assassination and made a movie about it.
Well, absolutely. It's this has been going. The left can be vicious.
We'll stop with politics for a minute.
all of them can be vicious. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, that's true. No, they can.
Not just
no
the left.
question.
I'm just pointing out the other side of the coin that my colleague forgot to mention.
Only Trump has a darn thing to do with this. But
He's the president.
We're blaming him for pestilence on the peach crop the next time we turn around. We're going to reserve comment on those two pretty heated congressional runoffs in Gwinnett and Fulton and Cobb later in the broadcast. But when we return, really the City Hall follies in Atlanta are starting almost to turn comical. We hope you'll enjoy them with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Good reporting out of Atlanta City Hall provided us the news this week that a judge in Atlanta Municipal Court ordered $5,800 worth of fancy napkins for a party. That wasn't all of it. Lots of expenditures. Phil, Judge Tierney Gundy, it is Tierney is her name, right?
That's correct.
It's not supposed to be tyranny, though, is it?
It is
Even though she's a judge.
Terrinee.
Okay. Anyway, she joins the crowd at City Hall that I swear thinks they're royalty, that they can order anything. And she made all these purchases for a party, an after party. You probably go to the mayor's mass ball, don't you, every year?
I do go to the ball, but no after parties.
You hadn't been invited to the after party?
No.
You've been invited?
I wasn't invited to this one, and I did not attend, thankfully.
Okay. But anyway, it was for a private party that the mayor was having.
A very lavish
party, yes. And
This
the
would have
video
been last year for the prior mayor, not the current mayor.
Right. No, that's right. This was Kasim Reed's.
That's right. And this judge was a crony of Reed. And
appointed to the bench by him.
It was a lavish party. It was all at taxpayer expense. It shows the culture, again, of corruption that occurred under the Reed regime. It's a disgrace.
Well, reading in on that led me to a story that I'd completely missed about how Judge Gundy was a late arrival at her court almost every day, showing up usually around 10 o'clock, 9:45, and then canceling her whole bench court one day to go to a Super Bowl rally at Atlanta City Hall.
Well, that's right, and the Judicial Qualifications Commission, which oversees judges and their conduct, is looking at her conduct, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I'm also hearing is that, and one correction, the after party was paid through obviously city money, but also private donation from different corporations.
Yeah.
But I'm also hearing that City Council is talking about really looking at some oversight to spending between judges. And I think that if you look at what Mayor Bottoms said about the $30,000 that was approved by former City Attorney Jeremy Berry, she made it very clear that that was something that happened, in the former administration with that city attorney. And so I think that council is outraged by this. I know the mayor is not happy about it. And so what you're going to see is this next conversation about how do you provide some oversight, because that much spending on a party is just not acceptable, and the optics are just not good. And so I think you're going to see council and the mayor probably eventually getting, but definitely council is going to look at this very closely.
Well, the revelations of spending just continue. There was another odd and almost comical event this week involving I guess you would say the Kasim Reed, well, no, I guess this one could be Mayor Bottoms too. Anyway, a fellow named Ralph Jones is a Fulton County election official, oversees some very important functions in Fulton County, of which Atlanta is part, and Jones, included in his responsibilities, was mailing absentee ballots. So it turned out his son, Ralph Jones Jr., lived at his house and was the incorporator of a consulting company hired by the Fulton County Board of Election, hired by Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms as a consultant.
During her campaign.
During her campaign.
And the father was registered with the Secretary of State's
But he said he
office.
didn't know he was registered.
Right.
Well, that doesn't ring
But
true.
the son lived in his
Yeah,
house.
it does. Yeah, it does.
The son lives in his house.
Well, if you're on the Secretary of State's website and you have the home address, and that was the father's address, you're given notices. And so this guy's got to be the most stupid person in the world if he doesn't know that he is the actually official. Well,
it's just his son didn't tell him what he was doing.
Well,
and they had the
if
same
you buy
name.
that, that's fine.
No,
but I don't buy it.
but a couple
and
things.
it stinks to high heaven.
So that's wrong, Phil. And let me again always state the facts. So when
those are the facts.
No. When you're running a campaign and you're running to be the 60th mayor of the city of Atlanta, you're not going to ask everyone, hey, Dick, who's the registered agent on your company, right? This company was an IT company that this young man, Ralph Jr., created. His father was a registered agent on the company. The guy came on.
They didn't talk at dinner about what he was up to?
But the thing is that he did outstanding work. He was paid, and it moved on. And so this whole notion that that his father was somehow, there was some type of collusion going on. That wasn't it. And here's the thing.
Ralph Jr. then got a job in the watershed department. You don't think that was part of the deal?
There wasn't a part of the deal.
The commissioners think something else.
You know how it works. You're always going to defend bottoms and all of this.
No, I'm going to defend the process. And what I'm telling you, Phil, as someone who's run campaigns more than you have, is that when you're in the midst of a fight like she was under, and that this gentleman had a legitimate company, who he was paid for legitimate work, his father, who I think has done an exceptional job in the Fulton County Elections Office, should not be, criminalized or come on the show for being a registered agent. He had nothing to do with the campaign.
The Elections Board is under investigation by the Secretary of State, and for all we know, the feds. I mean, really, that is one of the worst-run operations in the entire Southeast. We've known that. Report after report says that. So I don't think we can praise Ralph Jones Sr. for anything.
And I think the elections director, Richard Barron, is also under the gun, and I wouldn't be surprised if he moves on or is fired.
One other corruption note, with the City Hall thing going on now for almost 2 years, the feds revealed this week through Mitzi, they didn't reveal it, Mitzi Bicker's lawyers, the former political consultant to Kasim Reed, her lawyers asked for more time in her case because they have hours and hours of audio recordings.
Remember, we reported on that over a year and a half ago. It's no surprise to the Georgia gang.
Did we report the audio?
Yes, and so did Fox 5. And also, I think that the U.S. Attorney's Office is continuing to ramp up the bribery corruption investigation.
I'm done with them. This is ridiculous. This investigation has gone on entirely too long. BJ Pack is making a mockery out of this city by the delay.
I disagree. It's like peeling back an onion. It's like peeling back an onion. Look at the airport, Dick. You know this better than most.
60 corruption
layers
stories
of corruption that could be found.
I agree with you, Dick. Listen, whatever you
Put
have,
up or shut up.
Whatever you have, if there's any there, put it out there.
Like the Mueller investigation?
We got to get out.
How about that?
But just put it out there.
We got to get out. I'm very disappointed in BJ Pack because this drip, drip, drip is killing the city, the image and everything. Hurts the airport and all kinds of things.
I think you got to do it right. I think he's trying to do it right.
All right, when we come back, congressional runoffs and some other odds and ends. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Voters in 3 of our largest counties in the state have Democratic runoffs for Congress coming up on July 24th. And I think we ought to take a look at them because they're every bit as nasty as the runoffs. Not quite.
Not as bad.
One of them is, but they're nasty, like the runoffs on the Republican side. And I'm going to start with the 6th district, which is the seat occupied by Karen Handel in that monumental win over John Ossoff. And it's odd because once again, outside money is calling the tune. Lucy McBath, who's a former executive director of Everytown for Gun Safety, has got them behind her. She has virtually no local money, but she's got hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in from 2 gun super PACs in Washington, D.C. All her mailers are from, that I've seen, are from one or the other of those 2 gun PACs. And her opponent, Kevin Abel, who's nice enough fellow, I think his consternation is rising. He's working the district, and he's seeing all this outside money come in for television and mailings for Lucy McBath on just one issue, guns.
Well, it's an important issue, and it's an issue that we've talked about on the show that she's worked on. I mean, let's not forget the fact that this young lady lost her son, Jordan Davis, who was shot by a white police officer for allegedly having his music too loud. And so she's traveled across the country and become a very outspoken advocate for gun safety. And really, some different compromising ideas around gun safety. But Kevin Abel, I got to give it to you, Dick. You're right. I mean, he's using this sort of perception that these outsiders, again, are trying to come into the 6th district and determine who our representative will be.
And Lucy McBath was a late entry. very late, and she had been living in Tennessee for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
She had to reestablish residency. I can see where Kevin Abel.
But I'm glad she at least moved in the district. I mean, John Ossoff, my good buddy, you know, never ever
That's right.
physically moved over. I think he lives there now, but
Yeah, he does live there now.
But both the political right and the political left pick these people like McBath, and they pour money in. They try to make them their poster child, and so you're going to see more of this as we get into the fall.
Let me explain.
Well, we can all thank Citizens United for this, correct? That
Yes.
Supreme Court decision.
A decision I support, but I'm starting to rethink a little bit.
No, okay, because
I support it because of the First Amendment aspects, but I don't like unreported.
Money means speech. That's what the rule
I understand that.
in the Citizens United case. Money is speech, and you always were for free speech. I'm a little surprised to hear you say that.
And we're in the speech business, so I understand that. Here's the problem. All the money that is going to Jeff Duncan's PAC to be spent in Georgia, and all the money going into Lucy McBath's PAC, it doesn't have to be reported. We don't know who's giving that money.
exactly.
And the system has failed by that. Let's look at the 7th District, which is mostly Gwinnett, but a big chunk of Forsyth County as well. The congressman there is Rob Woodall. The Democratic contenders are both radical leftists. They are David Kim and Carolyn Bordeaux. Kim's commercial ran in our broadcast last week, maybe in this week's broadcast too. He's attacking Carolyn Bordeaux. She's a college professor.
Right.
And he is just, he's smashing her, Alexis.
Well, there was a wild charge that she was supporting Republicans.
That she was responsible for cuts in education. But
Healthcare, I think it was.
I thought it was education.
It could be.
And health. It might have been both.
She
because
dared to work with Republicans. That was a crime.
But she wasn't elected to anything. How did that work?
It was. She was a consultant on the in the Great Recession.
Oh.
And so she was carrying out an assignment about what could be cut and what, you know.
Yeah, I mean, she was in a very important job in the state, and I mean, you know, I've met both candidates, and I think to say that she was, you know, sort of,
And she
you
had
know,
no responsibility.
yeah,
for
we're
doing it.
Republican. I mean, this is really I think a stretch for David, but he does have the money to actually make these, you know, TV commercials. But I think that Carolyn's message to the voters, and again, I can't overstate this enough, is that this is the year of the woman, and so there's still a lot of women in that district who are very fired up about her candidacy.
All right, we got to get out. We'll see how that comes out on July 24th. But it is unusual to see two Democrats in a race like that going tooth and tog. I mean, they're nasty and after each other. I don't know if
Trump,
she's
man.
being nasty. David Kim is.
Trump, the influence of Trump.
All right, when we return, winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And don't forget to join us on Facebook, the Georgia Gang, and on YouTube, where there's a Georgia Gang channel. Phil, major loss, a major name lost in Georgia Republican politics this week.
Well, that's my winner and loser today, Dick, and it's Pat Swindle, who died at the very early age of 67 the other day. And he was a congressman. He beat
Elliot Levitas,
who was a prominent Democrat congressman back in the day in 1984. And he actually helped the coalition that still exists to this day in the Republican Party with the melding the religious right into the business community and into the other factors that make up the...
mostly DeKalb, and what he did was he put the religious right with the early tax revolt people.
That's right.
Those two strains of Republicans got together to elect him.
It was very effective. And just a little bit more political history, he got in trouble for perjury, and actually the prosecutor was another former congressman, Bob Barr, who put him away. And so it was a little bit of history there.
All right, Alexis.
Okay, I'm going to, excuse me, congratulate Judge Alfred J. Dempsey Jr., retired from Fulton County Superior Court, and Governor Deal named Fulton Magistrate Judge Shakura Ingram Millender to replace him. So congratulations.
You just call her Judge Millender,
yes.
I think.
And True Colors Theater Company founder and artistic director Kenny Leon has a new book that he's written, a memoir, Take You Wherever You Go. And he's going to be in a conversation with Joe Barry Carroll about it this week. And then finally, Kashik Sims Alvarado has pictures from her book on Atlanta's civil rights movement from 44 to 68 on the west side and the east side trail on the Beltline. So congratulations to her. And then this 30th anniversary gala for the National Black Arts Festival is this weekend.
All right, Darren.
Definitely want to echo Alexis, Shakur Ingram Millender. Big shout out to her. She's a wonderful woman. Got appointed by Governor Deal as judge. Definitely want to also highlight DeKalb County. They passed their FY18 mid-year budget with $89 million in the rainy day fund. And also Brian McGowan, who's leaving us as the Atlanta Beltline Inc. CEO. Great person, done a great job here. He's going to Seattle to be the CEO of Greater Seattle Partners, and then also the Atlanta Beltline for the Civil Rights Tour Atlanta Beltline. This is some great art. I encourage all of our viewers to go out and see this great art along the Atlanta Beltline.
And we should mention, by the way, that there is finally real pressure on the Beltline to have a transit component, to have rail somehow in the big, what is now the big sidewalk. And I think that's good, and Kathy Woolard, who sits in with us, would certainly be the first to advocate that, as I believe Brian McGowan.
Yeah, and it was something they were already planning to do, so Kathy's enthusiasm.
And that's a shame that departure is at a rough time for the Beltline, too. He was a very good manager.
All right, so I'm going to just have fun with mine today. The Braves have 4 All-Stars for Tuesday night's All-Star game. 4. That's fantastic. It'll be worth watching this year. And another thing, Jeff Francoeur, though his career didn't end all that well with Major League Baseball, he's sitting in on Wednesday nights on the broadcast team. He is the natural at broadcasting.
That's great.
See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program